What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanchi, and we are here with not the season finale of season one, which I thought it was, but we are here with season one, episode 8 of the Gilded Age, titled Tucked Up in Newport. Now, this episode was directed by Michael Engler, written by Julian Fellows, and cinematographer was Vanja Cernjul. Now, this episode is crazy, but I really love the introduction of Newport and how it's like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't necessarily want to say cinematically, but um cinematically juxtaposed against like the backdrop of New York. I mean, you get to Newport and everything is bright, it's green, there's clean water, it's flowery. The colors that people wear are even brighter, and just the layers in their garments and everything is lighter and stuff too. And so I just love like the introduction of this new location and just how refreshing it was. Even the composition behind the dialogue and the different locations was just a lot different. And it really speaks to just how like music and ambiance and sound plays into the vibe of how you feel when watching a movie and when you're going from one location to another location, from one season to the next, one dimension to another. And in this way, Newport really does feel like a world away from New York, when in reality, it's really not that far. But this was nice. I was feeling the vibes. Another thing that I noticed that I like is like the commute time. We already know, like in season three, I think it was online, we were talking about like how long does it take to get from London back to New York by boat, and just like the way information and stuff travels. I love just the fiction of it all, where it just be like, okay, these two horses, we finna get from Manhattan to wherever in the next scene. And so somebody be like, oh, I'm getting ready to go to Philly. They in Philly. Oh, I'm getting ready to go to Newport. They in Newport. So I just kind of love like we can just suspend all types of traveling and commuting beliefs in this, because let's get to the business. And speaking of business, this episode heavily centered George Russell and this whole thing with Mr. Dixon using just cheaper materials on trains, causing a train accident that killed 5 people. Now, George is like, do I need to fire every single last one of y'all? From Mr. Clay to his lawyers, he's just like, what do y'all do? Because I'm pretty sure I'm signing the ledger, I'm signing your paychecks, you're cashing them. And yet I don't see the results of my money. Like, where is my ROI? Okay. And I'm telling y'all this calmly, but George is nasty and George is ruthless. He is so disrespectful when talking to the people that work for him whenever he's frustrated. And I mean, I'm gonna keep saying it. Fuck it. That's, you're here. Who gives a shit? George is a hypocrite. George is a hypocrite. Okay. I mean, right down to the very last sentence in period in the Webster's in Oxford dictionary. My man be getting on Bertha all the time about being ambitious and being ruthless and being cruel and doing all these other things. And I think when she said in season three, she does this, she's ambitious for her family. And when you look at the way that George was talking to Clay and his lawyers, and this is like, are you ambitious for your family too? Or just for yourself and the reputation of your name? Now, of course, the success of the family and the status of the family name hinges on George, being successful and doing all these other things. But when you're being a fucking dick to your entire staff, then who will you have to back you up in the first place. Again, as I'm going through the season, it's clicking more and more to me why somebody would have shot him. And it ain't just Mr. Clay, even though that's the obvious choice. Like, he just moves so crazy. So instead of having a trial by jury, it ended up being one presented in front of the judge, where the judge will basically decide. I want to say this was like a pre-trial phase, where you present the evidence in front of fucking a, in front of the judge, but he still didn't want to do a trial by jury. And then you can always choose that. Like, even to this day, you can choose, a jury of your peers or just a singular judge based on the evidence. Now, lucky for George, Marian is like an accidental nosy ass bitch, because she's going into Bloomingdale's and she's looking at things. She ain't got nothing else better to do than to sip tea and shop all day. And earlier that morning, when she was seeing off Larry and Oscar to Newport, along with Gladys and Bertha, the stenographer came in and was like, "Hey, Larry, can you get these documents to your daddy?" So at one point, when George was asking Mr. Clay, like, did something come in for me or whatever? And Clay was like, nah. And I'm like, are they all colluding to bring him down? Because this don't make no sense, because you really never see that George was handed any of those documents. So when Marian saw George at the house, it's because the lady at the counter in Bloomingdale's, Miss Dixon, had accidentally left her purse, and it had like some notebook or something in it. And so Marian was like, "Hey, I don't know her, but I did see her this morning. She's a stenographer for my neighbor. I could just bring it to them and they can give it to her." So Marian goes over and she drops it off, and she was like, "Yeah, Mrs. Dixon left this." And George is like, "Who the fuck is Miss Dixon?" And so Charlie pull up and he's like, "Okay, I guess we'll figure this out." And Marian's like, "No, you're a stenographer. I saw her this morning. She gave Larry some papers to give to you." And then George was like, "Oh yeah, Larry did bring those to me before he left." So that was really our only confirmation that he did receive something earlier that day. Okay. But at this juncture, I'm like, is the stenographer married to this man that is lying and trying to take down George? Because that don't make no sense. But fast forward to the courtroom. So, lawyers do what they do. They stalling real quick. "Hey, Your Honor, it looks like we just got a new piece of evidence." And, prosecution is just like, "No, we object." And the judge is like, "Listen, is this evidentiary enough to affect the outcome of this case?" And they're like, yeah. So the judge was like, "Okay, what is it?" Okay. And the lawyer was like, "It's not a what, it's a who." Mrs. Ainsley, stay your ass right there. Okay. "Miss Ainsley, do you know the people in this courtroom?" She's like, yes, I know you. I know Mr. Russell. I know the judge. I do stenography. You know what I'm saying? I'm aware of the prosecutor. Again, this is my job. Like, what's up? And the lawyer was like, "Do you recognize anybody else? Like, does anybody in the gallery look familiar?" And she's like, no. What the fuck is this? 21 questions? Guess who? Clue? Like, what are we doing?" And he's like, "So you mean to tell me that you don't know Mr. Dixon because the other day you was caught up in Bloomingdale's buying a purse posing as Mrs. Dixon? So riddle me that." And my good sis breaks down immediately. She's like, "No, like, we're not together. That's not my husband. I just was using his account." And of course, Mr. Dixon gets up and he's like, "Bitch, shut the fuck up." And, order in a court or whatever. So turns out sis had clocked some tea a while back, and Mr. Dixon was apparently mad that George and his wife ended up going with a different company to do the build for, I think, their ballroom in their house. I had to rewind that part a couple of times because I'm like, they're saying, okay, they went with the expensive buyer or whatever. So it just kind of seemed like it was one of those jealousy things that their company didn't get to do the build on the house. And so they just decided to take the money that George was giving them for the railroad. And then he was reallocating the majority of the funds to fatten his pockets while going to get cheaper parts. So immediately, George is exonerated, right? Now, this is the part where we connected right back to anybody could have shot this motherfucker in season 3 because Miss Ainsley, like, sir, I beg of thee, please be kind. And he's like, you know what? I have a kindness, especially for you. Whenever you're going out on a town and you're looking for some jobs, if I hear that you're trying to do anything except scrub feces and piss off the pavement that these horses walk on, I will tell everyone what you did. And she's like, by George, you don't mean it. And he's like, oh, bitch, I do. And so she walks out with her tail tucked between her legs, and you can really see like his face warring with satisfaction, but also questioning if he went too far. Yes, you did. Because what is even the point? Let her lose her job. Yes, she is ashamed and she's going to have to carry the fact that she knew that Mr. Dixon was the cause of that, but she didn't really have nothing to do with that. And so this knife is already in this woman, and then you just went and twisted it because you could. There is no gain for this. What is the objective to furthering her humiliation by making sure that she can't feed herself or her family? What is the point? What is the training objective here? What is the lesson to learn in doing this? Other than being somebody who finally got put into power and you are now stepping into the personality that you always wanted to have, but you couldn't have because you was a broke ass bitch. But now you got money, you feel like you can do whatever you want. And that is why I'm just like, I've clocked a solid 3 people in season 1, including Mr. Clay, who could be responsible for the assassination attempt in season 3. Because I'm pretty sure we're going to continue to investigate that in season 4. Mr. Clay seems to be very easy, but again, we got the alderman's wife, Mrs. Ainsley, and Mr. Clay so far. The lawyers, I'm pretty sure the lawyers is used to being talked to this way, so it really ain't nothing to that effect. But already in season 3, in season 1, those are 3 people. And the reason I believe it might be a woman involved, or at least a woman who orchestrated this, is because people don't think women are smart enough to orchestrate a murder or commit a murder in the first place. So they're the most likely to be overlooked in all of the different fan like thoughts and ideas, and even within the show and within the writing. It'd be easy to say that a woman had nothing to do with this because he's a businessman, and many people in business and many men in business hate him. But just in season 1 alone, there are 2 women who have great, deadly reasons to want him dead because he fucked with their livelihood in both occasions. So I'm hoping in season 4 that that is the case. I think it being Mr. Clay or being that other man that Mr. Clay was trying to collude with, it would just be lazy, and more than being lazy, it would be predictable. And I think the fun thing would be is to do a recall to this case in particular, especially because when we get back into the season 3 of things, we're still dealing with the expansion of Amtrak. So all of George's problems do stem from him expanding his business, but he has hurt people. Like, there have been collateral damage that has been very major. It's not something that was just like, oh, they kind of got hurt. Like, no. These two women in particular, they can't stand your ass. And it's well deserved. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking this entire episode. But as we continue to move on through the episode and people who deserve these hands, Miss Armstrong, yo, I don't care about a singular redemption arc for this lady. I don't book because she goes out of her way with her racism, her bigotry, her stereotyping, and her nosiness. And it's crazy because in her being racist to Peggy, mind you, Peggy has put up with a lot. Okay. And I would say for the most part, she can kind of avoid it. But whenever she's sharing meals and stuff, she's eating in the basement with the rest of the people who work for the house, even though she lives upstairs and they don't. Um, you're sharing your meals, you're spending a lot of time of your day with these people, and it takes 10 positive people to offset one negative person. So how many non-racist people does it take to offset an evil bitch? Like, that has to be exhausting. And she, she is a saint. Okay, she got the patience of a god, because it wouldn't be me. But Mrs. Armstrong does not care who catches the shrapnel whenever she's on some fucking witch hunt for anything. And we already saw that with the whole with Bannister. Who else? Oh my god, it was an episode where she was like, oh, this betrayal. Like, the way that she uses her words to ignite Agnes and thinking that she's gonna get Agnes on her side. Like, this lady is so miserable. I'm stunned that she made it all the way to season 3. And it seems that she hasn't really had any character growth. I haven't seen season 2 yet. I still got another episode of this season, but it really don't matter what happens in season 2. Like, she's a hag. She's a hag. I'm over it. And to try to not only exploit Peggy's deepest secret, but then to lie about it, as if Peggy isn't smart enough to know that you read the letter that was none of your business, and that she wouldn't own her own story. And one of the things that's really prevalent, that I've been seeing a theme all weekend, is cultural sovereignty. And it's basically the ability to have the media and be in control of your own voice, your own narrative, for yourself and for your people. And I'm so glad that when Peggy told Marian what was up, and just the fear of Mrs. Armstrong telling Agnes about this, and her thinking like, no, I gotta leave the house, like, this is gonna ruin the house's reputation, my reputation, whatever. Marian was like, regardless of what Armstrong said, you need to tell Aunt Agnes. And you think she's going to kick you out, but that's not necessarily the case. But you have to be in charge of your own narrative. And again, there's so many different conversations and themes that comes up between just Marian and Peggy's friendship. And cultural sovereignty was something that was just screaming at me during that moment and during that dialogue. Because what we end up finding out is, as Peggy is telling Agnes' story, she had church go get Armstrong. And I love, bruh, Agnes be getting on my nerves sometimes, but let me tell you something. Much like me, Agnes don't do no he say, she say. She gonna listen to Peggy's story. She gonna read this letter, and she about to go get the girl who came to her face earlier to try to talk behind old girl's back, and she about to bring her in old girl's face, and we finna figure this shit out. Because what? And so as Armstrong walks in, Agnes is like, and that is such a shame, and you did not have to share this heartbreaking story with me. But it's crazy because just 20 minutes ago, that's not what I was told. I was told that you had a baby out of wedlock and then abandoned them. And so you got some illegitimate baby out here in these streets. And Armstrong was like, that's not what and Agnes was like, no, bitch, that is what you said. And so now that we're all gathered here today, we're not about to sit up here and play these backtracking ass games. And so Armstrong was like, well, I'm just trying to look out for what's best in this house. And she said, and I'm looking at your job and I'm thinking the same thing. carry on. We'll get back to this conversation. And so you just really see how much Agnes cares about Peggy. And just the whole household. And it's crazy because we also find out, you already kind of know like Ada don't like Armstrong, but when Peggy first brought up that Armstrong read her letter and Marian was bringing it up to Ada, and Ada was just kind of like, that tracks, her nosy ass, some shit like that. Either way, Marian was like, I'm Ada, but those are words worth fighting. And Ada was like, bitch, I ain't never liked her ass. I don't give a fuck. If she was in my face right now, I would literally stab her with this crochet needle. Like, what are we doing? Don't act aghast. And so I love that for Ada's, like, what's the word? For all of her pleasantries, her kindness, her trying to find her way in this house with her sister, and for all the times that she seems like she isn't aware of a lot of things, she's very much the type of person going through life right now where she knows it's some bullshit happening around her, and she's making it a choice to digest things that makes her happy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she don't have her ear to the streets. And there was a line in this episode too where even Agnes was like, Ada said something and she was like, I read the papers, I know things. And Agnes said something to the effect of, but you walk around here only spouting like nonsense, basically. I don't know all the words in the language, but Agnes even called out the fact that Ada does walk around as if like she has no idea what's going on in the world. But this episode really unravels her values, her beliefs, her passions, in the fact that she peep shit. And she's absolutely the little sister that will throw hands, hold my britches, bitch, because what's up? And even when Peggy's like, okay, thank you for believing in me and giving me a job, but you know what? Armstrong is making shit way too hard. So I'm going to go and move back home. And, Agnes understands. Um, Ada was looking at Agnes and was like, bitch, fire Armstrong. What are we even doing? And that's when Agnes was like, and then I would have to hire and train someone else new. And that takes me back to like why I'm always on the edge of Agnes and Agnes's character, because she just represents an ally with one foot in and one foot out. You'll go and you'll do some things and you'll take action towards the right thing, but you won't thwart tradition in your own household to make sure that you make a cultural change in the circles that you directly influence. And since we've seen Armstrong in season 3, obviously we know that she never fired her. Now, what gets Peggy back up in this house? I think season 3, episode 1, that was like the thing, but it's just like, you see how that is? You see why it makes trusting someone like Agnes hard. I like her. I can have tea with her. I can have luncheon with her. I will not trust her ever, not with anything. And the reason I'm harder on Agnes with this is because she is the one who is in position of power in this household. Cultural change starts from the leader, and how you lead and the things that you accept will be how the household runs. So even if Agnes was fired Armstrong, and maybe other people in the house would have been like, damn, she fired her because she ain't like a black person. I don't like black people either. If Agnes is moving like that and she's making a strong stance toward what she will and will not tolerate, it doesn't matter if they don't like it. They will adjust. They will adjust. It is what it is. By keeping Armstrong there, it kind of defeats the purpose of standing up for Peggy in the first place, especially with something like this. Racism is learned, it is taught, it is ingrained, and this woman has no reason, nor does she want to change any of her ways. And it doesn't matter that everybody around her doesn't agree with her. The head of the house still keeps her employed, still gives her a bed, still gives her food. And so she will always be taken care of, because at the end of the day, they're going to take care of their people. So, yeah. Um, So yeah, it's basically womp on Mrs. Armstrong. I don't care. I don't care any storyline that comes up. I don't care. And I know the writers work hard and they do a great job, but sometimes in TV shows, there's just characters that I'm just not gonna like. And they can do that one thing or the two, and it's still gonna be cut for you. I'm just not here for it. Okay. I'm not here for it. Another thing I'm not here for, Marian, and the fact that she don't ever receive full information before making a decision. So in season 3, I was hot at Marian's reaction to finding out about Larry. And I was hot not because of what she found out, but she only had half the information and then was going to make a lifelong decision based off little information. So she being a lawyer is definitely not in her future because she would lose every trial. But here with the whole Mr. Right situation, so Aurora clocked him flirting with another girl. Now, it could be perceived as a woman flirting with him and him just being polite and not wanting to embarrass her. They were all sitting at a table in this little cart thing at the Edison light display. So, perception. Cool. Well, Aurora tells Marian, she was like, hey girl, hate to be this cousin, hate to be this bestie, but are you sure about Mr. Rex? Because I was in the booth with him at the light display. And she was like, I know, he told me. Thank you so much for your concern. Like, I have everything. And it's just like, you didn't hear, over here smacking the hell out of this microphone. I forgot this was here on my hip. Sorry for any noise that I made. But you didn't hear nothing else. You didn't let her explain what she saw. You didn't ask any follow-up questions. You were just like, yes, he did tell me he was at the light display in the box with you. So this lets me know, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So anyway, she takes this whole thing and she tells Peggy, like, we're gonna eat loaf. And then she goes to him and she's like, we're gonna eat loaf. Like, oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. And I'm just like, oh my God, bro. Oh my God. Marian is the definition, in this season at least, she is the definition of going to Six Flags, looking at all of the red banners and being like, yeah, I'm still gonna make this decision. Like, what? Everybody in your life, including Peggy, and Peggy's just trying to be neutral, but she did tell her, hey girl, this man said he loved you and proposed to you after like a week and a half of like knowing you. Like, this shit don't seem crazy to you. And she's just going with the flow. And it goes back to what I said, I think in episode 2, is she needs women in her life that's not her family to guide her. And I thought Mr. Chamberlain could do that, and she does give great sound advice. Marian needs somebody. She needs somebody. She is blinded by this man, and he hasn't even done anything worthy of any of her thoughts of marrying him. You spent a total, let's say it's been a few months, doubt it. You spent a total of like 70 minutes with this man over the span of what? 3 weeks? A month? And you're going to marry him? What has he done to court you? You keep saying that and Agnes won't understand and all these other things, and oh my God, woe is me, and we're just star-crossed lovers. Okay, well, if he's supposed to be the man of this household that y'all are looking for, then why in the face of her scrutiny has he not walked through the front fucking door and actually sat down with Agnes and had a conversation about this? Allow her to grill him on his intentions. Allow her to grill him on how he is going to financially support y'all as a family. No, he wants you to sneak behind your family's back, who was responsible for your life and your social well-being, to sneak off with him, and you don't even know if he could take care of you financially. So you want to marry the person that has you lying, scheming, and sneaking behind your family's back. That's who you want to marry. That's who you want to marry. Ain't got the balls to sit with you in front of them. So even if they told him no. And it's really giving that boy Billy from season 3. It's giving that. It's giving that. They want to do everything in silence because they know that people can see through their bullshit. And Marian is not listening to a single person who loves her the most about his bullshit. She's just looking at this man and his mutton chops, and she's just like, babe, let's do it. I know I've only known you for like 60 minutes, barely the length of a documentary, but I feel that we're going to have a great life together. And I just hate looking at her face every time she talk about that man and every time they're on screen together. I hate looking at her face because you can see, shout out to the actress, you can see that in her smile of excitement, her eyes have doubts. I know that intuition is screaming at you, girl. Please listen to it, please. And it's such good acting to be able to separate the emotions that's going across your face like that. Because when she was looking at Peggy, she was like, we're going to elope, we're going to do everything. Like, what does it matter? Everything was lit up from her toes to her head. And when she's with him in his office because she wanted to go see him, she's now like, well, are you really sure that we should elope? Are we sure that this is the best? And okay. And like her eyes are just like, fuck, like what am I even doing? And that tells you that every time she's in his presence, she feels that thing in her. That's like, girl, no, girl, this only sounds good on paper. This only sounds good in your daydreams when you're not around him. But there's something in your spirit and there's something in his that's telling you that you don't need to accept this man into your life. And so I'm very curious as to how that's going to play out. And I was hearing a lot in season 3 when everybody was like, be nice to her. You remember what happened to Mr. Rakes and that other guy? And I'm just like, I need to see what happened with Mr. Rakes. Because at this point, it's not to say that he doesn't do anything to make her distrust men. But everything I've seen, Marian needs to work on trusting herself. The things that I'm seeing so far is she is explicitly and openly turning her back on the advice of the people who care about her the most. That's not a Mr. Rakes thing. That's a Marian thing. That's an accountability thing. That's asking yourself, what did I do that assisted in coming here, and what can I change in the future to help prevent these things before? Even if the other person is more at fault, you have to at least ask yourself, did I participate in the outcome of this as well? And everything I'm seeing with Marian is she is a willing participant in the fact that she's not listening at all. But honestly, at the end of the day, what can you tell a 20-something? It doesn't matter what century it is. 20-something-year-olds think they know every fucking thing. So it just is what it is. You only learn through experience, and you can't give a 20-something your hindsight and expect them to use it as foresight. It just never works that way. Your path is not their path. It just is what it is. And no matter how frustrating it is, and you want them to understand, you want them to get it in your head, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it, because even if you tell them they follow all the rules, it's going to be somebody else that comes into their life or another situation that still leads them down their own singular path. And that's not something that the elders in her life, at least, would be able to warn her about, because it's an experience that they themselves have not lived. They can only give her advice based on their lived experiences, and their lived experience is not necessarily going to be hers. And so, unfortunately, hard hand make a soft bottom with Marian, because my sis ain't got no self-preservation when it comes to this man. And speaking of self-preservation, we are in Newport, y'all. We are in Newport, and how messy is Newport in the brightness of it all? Like, the scenery with Newport and the messiness that was going on was just a visual feast. It was incredible. It was like a rose garden. Everything was pretty and it smelled so nice, and they're in season and they're blooming so well. And you're like, I want to walk in this rose garden because it's drawing me in. And now you're trapped in a bunch of fucking thorns. Let me tell you something. I don't know who got cut the most. for real when I was watching it, but just thinking about it right now, and I'm just like, I don't know who had the worst time, Oscar or Bertha. Let's talk about the Oscar of it all. Okay, so y'all know Oscar. Is this mic even on? Listen, we 30 some minutes in. Um, Oscar is desperately trying to court Gladys. Now on Bertha and even Larry's side, they was just like, all right, bro, you ain't got no chance, but good luck. And even Marian's just like, cousin, sir, no. Have you met Big Bertha? Okay, be careful, bro. And so he's just on like this relentless pursuit. And before he went to Newport, he was telling John, he was like, hey, I'm going to Newport. Gladys gonna be there. And John is just like, listen, I don't support this lavender situation that you're trying to have going on. We could literally just do what we're doing. And Oscar's like, listen, as people like us get older, and if we ain't got no bitches in our lives, they're gonna start asking questions. And John's like, who gives a fuck? I love you, bro. And Oscar's like, shut your fucking mouth. We are in public, bitch. And so John's like, listen, you know what? You want to play? You want to string me along? Bet I'm done with this lunch, and you can pay. And so John know Oscar ain't got a lot of money, but Oscar's sole purpose is like, I need money to fund my lifestyle. Now, when I first met Oscar in season 3, y'all already know how I felt about Oscar. Get up, go get a job. Go get a job. But you trying to marry a woman, a girl who barely going into womanhood for money because you don't want to go get a job. So then when you marry her and we get the money, how are you contributing to the money if you ain't got no job? You see how that works? You see how the men around you have jobs and they're not crying about money because they have jobs. Like, I don't know. Oscar. Anyways, so he goes out in to Newport, and he's playing doubles tennis with Gladys. Now let's park it here because what the fuck are these gym outfits? Full scale gowns and suits with hats, playing tennis in this heat. Lord, I said, oh my God. People can say what they want about like, oh, like I wish we could have clothes like back in the old days. I promise you right now, you're not gonna catch me on a tennis court in a fucking wedding dress. Yo, it was crazy. Dress shoes with heels on, my best suit and tie as my workout clothes. Hell no. Hell to the no. What? Absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, I was very worried that they weren't going to shower and change, but lo and behold, they had on new outfits when it was time to go eat. Thank the Lord. And they're all standing out. Now, Mrs. Fish, y'all already know, she's the gossip, okay? She gets the tea. And she's talking with McAllister, and she's taking some slight jabs at Bertha, but Aurora has coached Bertha very well. So Bertha is, ducking and dodging, bobbing and weaving, doing what she needs to do to keep a smile on Mrs. Fish's face. And so it's a very great game of verbal chess. And I already said in season 3, like Mrs. Fish, she gossips, but she is no dummy. And she carries this thing about her where she talks like this. And we want to make sure that everything is really good. And you don't really mind like that because considering that that's where you came from in the past. But girl, it's all in the past. Look at you now. Like she talks in this octave to where you don't know that you're falling into a trap, and she's slowly weaving a web for you to get stuck in. And you got to be smart enough to see it. And Bertha sees it. And Aurora is quite proud. And so is McAllister. But while Bertha is over there, fighting for her life out in the ocean with the sharks, John shows up to the party. So Oscar grabs him and was like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? And he was like, well, I'm coming here to have fun, babes. Gladys, let me help you with that. And so he spends the rest of the time. I mean, Gladys is Zendaya laughing at the dinner table, y'all. And Oscar is sitting over there hated. I mean, my man got smoke coming out of his ears like crazy. And again, at this dinner table, Bertha is ducking and dodging and taking these jabs. And Mrs. Fish is just kind of like, okay, I've been giving it to her all day. And they're supposed to be there for 10 days. So she's kind of seeing, I'm like, okay, Bertha is a little formidable. And Bertha even said something to the effect to Aurora, like, because she called her tenacious. Mrs. Fish called her tenacious, and Aurora was like, take that as a compliment. She said, duh. I wouldn't be where I am if I wasn't tenacious. Like that ain't got nothing, that's not hurting me. And when you think about some of the things that did hurt Bertha's feelings this season, it was never any of the name calling or any of those things that women could be called that women of that time would be offended by. You know, being called ambitious, being called strong, being called a leader, being called tenacious, and being able to persevere, all those things that women hear now in the workplace that have been weaponized for centuries as we are watching the show. Bertha takes them as a badge of honor. It's the things that she wears. It's not the words that ever gets to her ever. It's her doing the hard work and doing the grunt work and still being shut out and having the frustrations of having to bulldoze her way into a place where she knows she deserves. It's always about the frustration of coming up against so many glass ceilings along the way. It's never about what people are saying about her behind her back or to her face, because there's nothing that they can say to her that she cannot then turn around and do worse to them. So she's doing a pretty great job, okay, if I say so myself. So we also sit in here and we're having conversations about Mrs. Astor and the place she bought, and then she ended up tearing it down and just rebuilt the whole thing. And so she's getting ready to move into it in the summer. So she's going to spend a lot of time up in Newport. So McAllister's like, Bertha, hey babes, you said you want to see it. I can take you on a tour. She always sends her people 2 days ahead of schedule. She ain't getting here tomorrow, so let's go. And so Mrs. Fish like, okay, my dude. I was rocking with you, but this is crazy. And Aurora's like, McAllister, wait, my dear, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, no, 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 it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And so they tried on over. And he bribes the footman and he's like, hey, I'm here with Mrs. Fane. And so the guy's like, no, is he a footman? I think he's the house manager. And he's like, all right, bet. Listen, I'm gonna take a C-note all day. Okay. I ain't seen nothing. I ain't been it. I ain't in it. And so while they're walking through, they hear a horse galloping, and the house manager come running around the corner with his fucking tailcoat blowing in the wind. He's like, she's here. McAllister's like, oh fuck, we gotta get the fuck out. He's like, bro, your horse and carriage is literally at the front door. What do you mean? She knows that you're here. So he's like, Bertha, he's like telling the footman, the other footman, he's like, get her out of this house or whatever. He's like, Aurora, play it cool, girl, play it cool. So they go to the front door and they're like, hey, we're here. Glad to see you. Aurora was in town, just here showing her around. And the footman is taking Bertha through the basement of the house where like all the services that work, and they bring her outside. They out there beheading and plucking chickens, beating rugs, doing all types of shit. And she's running through here with heels, a big ass gown, and a floppy hat on. And he just sends her outside. And so she's like in this whirlwind. And they snuck her ass out like a side bitch, yo. Like you can see it in Bertha's face. She has never felt lower in her life. But what does my good sis do? Can't keep a bad bitch down. She plucks a couple of feathers off of her outfit, peeps around the corner right quick. Aurora McAllister and Mrs. Astor has already walked through the front door, and so she has to walk off. To where? I have no idea because that was McAllister's horse and carriage that brought her ass. So where is she going? Bruh. Bruh. This gotta be the worst, longest, most miserable walk of shame ever. Like this this is crazy. So there's that, y'all. How is Bertha getting back to Mrs. Fish's house? And oh my God, Mrs. Fish is about to fry her ass when she gets there. Like, hey, the Mrs. Russell had to sneak out the house like a hussy and then walk all the way back. All her bobby pins don't fell out. She stank. Oh my God. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to Bertha. Fucking weak. I'm fucking weak. George, I'm gonna need some of that meanness. I'm gonna need some of that meanness, bro. He gonna have to cuss out McAllister. He's gonna have to cuss out I called him Wade. His name is Ward. He's gonna have to cuss out Ward. Like even if he don't mean it, it's off GP. It's off GP. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like you couldn't tell my sister to go hide in the carriage and you was gonna be out in like 5 minutes. Like what the fuck? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get into the thoughts segment. I should probably name this segment. But let's get into my thoughts. So I gave y'all a lot of thoughts, especially because this episode was really about like the culmination of this trial. And I already talked about George, I already just talked about Bertha, and I already talked about Mrs. Armstrong. But I would say like my final thought is, oh, I wrote this down. Hold on. Yes. So Carrie was talking to her mama Lena, Mrs. Astor. I'll use both interchangeably. Lena is her first name. And we know that Bertha is preparing for this ball or whatever. And Carrie still don't understand what her mama's beef is with Ms. Russell. And so she says that, oh my God, where is it at? Oh, did I delete it? Damn. She says to Carrie, the reason she don't like Miss Russell is because she came from nothing. And so Carrie was like, you're very unkind. Shout out to the daughters clocking their mama's tea, okay? And Mrs. Astor says, to be a leader sometimes is to be unkind. It is not a role for the faint-hearted. And I will say that is a sentence that sums up everything that I've seen of all the episodes that I've watched of The Gilded Age. When you think about Jesus Christ, when you think about Miss Astor, when you think about George, when you think about Bertha, when you think about even Ward McAllister, like they are leaders, even Agnes, they're leaders in their different segments. It's like fucking Game of Thrones, but in the Gilded Age era. And they all have worked hard in their respective lanes and have hurt people along the way and have done so in cruel manners. Like I always say, I don't like niceness. It's better to be kind than to be nice. Being nice is condescending. Being kind is the best thing that you can do for somebody. And sometimes kindness does hurt. The kind thing, for example, is for somebody to hold Marian's hands and say, girl, he don't want you. He is using you. And it's going to hurt her. And she won't like you for it. But it was the best thing because it was the kind thing. The nice thing is to say, well, I hope it work out, girl. If you like it, I love it. Because when she gets hurt, when you knew you had information, now you finna be sitting on that. They'll likely be more mad at that point, right? And so when you have, Mrs. Astor and the decisions that she's making for her daughters, even in season 3, right? When you look at Bertha and the way we went about marrying the Duke, You look at George and everything that's going on right now in season 1, everything that's happening in season 3. Ward McAllister, that whole fucking book, like, yeah. Um, and I think that really sums up their motivations. They all have a similar ambition. Their ambition, they are all like different branches on the same tree. And when you look at it that way, it really helps you understand the characters and the similarities within the characters. And it forces you to be like, okay, why do I accept this in this character, but I won't accept the same thing in that character? Or, why do I accept both of these things in these characters and not that one? Because they all are pulling from the same roots in the ground. And it's really about like their impact on everybody in their immediate social circles that kind of determine how people connect with these characters, because foundationally they're all the same. And so I would say to the writing team and in building these characters, this is such a great character build, because when you scale everything back, they're all the same person. But it's the choices and it's the decisions and it's the outcomes of those decisions and the experiences of the leaders in society from the people who experience them the most that really shape the outcome of what the audience member feels, and how we feel is determining who we end up liking. And so I just really love that. It's brilliant. As I've looked into other works that Julian Fellows wrote, things that I wasn't even really paying attention to about who wrote it or who created these shows. I pay attention now, obviously, because I'm podcasting and reviewing and recapping and stuff like that, and critiquing. But we watch so many shows where we overlook the writers, we overlook the directors, we overlook the cinematographers, we overlook costume designers, set production designers, um, set decorators, and stuff like that. But when you really think about what it takes to bring a story together, and you look at the way in which they all work in tandem, this series has all of those people at the forefront, and the actor is almost like the background character to the way that everything else tells the story. And the story itself is simply just incredible. So that is going to wrap up this episode of The Gilded Age, Season 1, Episode 8, titled Tucked Up in Newport. As always, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen, make sure you share the Spotify and the Apple Podcast link. You can also find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post about film and TV news and updates. And as y'all know, it is also linked to my Substack, where I am doing written publications and reviews, recaps, and upcoming things, so that if you want to know a little bit more about it while you're scrolling through my Instagram, you can go ahead and link that to a publication. There's also some interviews embedded in that, as well as I am expanding and got a couple more surprises and things coming up for you all. So again, follow me on these socials, y'all. Your girl is working hard. And you can also follow me on TikTok at Kimanchi, where again, I do short form review and different content on shows that I do not talk about on the podcast, as well as other shows that I'm just watching casually. I've even started reacting. I'm definitely going to get back into posting more of like monologues, more reenactments and stuff that I started getting really deep into last year. So for those of you who don't know, I act, write, direct, produce. I got my own production company. So yeah. So I do that as well, just for fun. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Kivanshi, where I'm talking all types of shit about different movies, TV shows, actors, performers, performances, and anything else. That's where we can really have the most casual conversation. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode. I came to y'all this time with my hair fully done. Yeah. Hey, if you be watching on YouTube, y'all be getting a real, you be getting a raw, okay? And I love that. That's the best part about it. And that's the best part about this community. So again, thank all of y'all for rocking with me and the additional 27 subscribers that we got since we announced having 1,000. Appreciate y'all so much. And yeah, I hope we can continue this journey and this film and TV relationship moving forward. And with that, I'm going to catch y'all in the next podcast episode.